Exit 9. Evil Ernie. The entitled women of today in the search for attention and validation find themselves on Highway 304, the Cheaters Highway. People around here know me as the Son, in Ellis & Son Automotive Repair and Ellis 24/7 Towing. The towing business is my baby, and it is a cash cow. My folks named Edward Ellis, but my oldest friends call me Dub. In my youth, my friends and I went through a stage where we carved our initials into every tree. My initials were E, so my nickname became Double E. Then over the years it settled into Dub. I have another nickname from high school that comes from the boys that crossed me, and that's Evil Eddie. I have a mean jealous streak, and I'm not afraid to show it. Like my friends, I married my high school sweetheart. She has been the love of my life. To her I could never be Evil Eddie, because she had brought the best out of me. I am not a college guy, but I went to trade school where I learned the modern ways to work on today's cars and trucks. At my dad's urging, I went to junior college and got my business degree, and accounting basics under my belt. I do have a knack for making money. I have been flipping commercial properties for years. Not residential, but there are folks always looking for a place to open a business. My wife gave birth to our 2 kids early in our marriage, and when our youngest started pre-K, she decided that she wanted to return to college and finish her degree in finance. I tried to get her into accounting, but that's not what she fixated on. She had her degree by the time our oldest was 12 and youngest was 10. I am sure it was her good looks that got her a job at Bennett Financial in the city. I have to admit that she is really good at picking winning stocks. I have made a tidy sum of money from her notes on her yellow notepads. I'm not too big of a man to admit it. Our sex life was good even though we had kids. Usually 3 times every week, and some weeks 4 times. This started to go downhill a year after she started at Bennett Financial. When I confronted her, she said it was my old jealousy starting up again. Maybe it was. It continued downward, twice a week became once a week, then every month or longer. That's not the worst part. She became a snob. I knew that the people that she worked with called me the grease monkey, and that's fine cause I know that I can buy out any of them high-income earners. I read and learn from the book, Millionaires Next Door. My businesses were cash businesses, and cash is still king even in this digital age. Not a penny of debt. While these idiots blew their money on sparkly things, expensive cars and big houses loaded with debt, I was saving and reinvesting my money. As I let my jealousy get the better of me, my dad talked me out of doing a lot of shit to the people that my wife interacted with. He convinced me to confirm it first. Remember, President Reagan, son. Trust, but verify. It was one of Dad's favorite quotes. Security first was a good customer mind. I did a lot of tow work for them, and we kept the company cars running tip-top. It didn't take long to get a PI report on my wife's activities. She was giving my sex to a guy, Bradley Silvers. They were only one of about 6 or 7 work couples that were cheaters. My mom didn't want me to do anything stupid because I could lose my kids over it. She didn't want to fight to see her grandbabies. That was my biggest fear, as well. I was the one that took them to school and picked them up. Fed them before their mother came home, usually late. Now that my kids were teens, their life was full of activities that my folks and I ferried them to and from. I began to formulate my revenge. The first part was easiest. On the night of our anniversary, we dined at a high-end restaurant that got great reviews, then danced a bit at a club that she wanted to go to. When we got home, I reflected that it had been the best night together in over a year. She was ready for sex. As she laid on our bed looking seductive, she watched me undress. I opened a condom and rolled it on. She wanted to know why I was doing that. I replied, "Don't know where bratty boys has been besides in you. I won't take the chance." She went off like a rocket, screaming and cussing me, telling me to quit being jealous, and she would never cheat on me. It was so cold in the house from her looks, I thought about emptying the freezer and bringing the food into our bedroom. It would be a long time before she would offer me sex again, and I was fine with it. A cheater is a cheater. What she forgot was I don't get mad, I get even. She didn't invite me to accompany her to her firm's year-end bash at the Irvin Foster Center, a month later. The firm had rented the entire building for the event. I clean up pretty good, but even in my tux, I was turned away at the door. I went around the back to the loading dock. I knew the caterer. I worked on his trucks, a lot. Employees don't care how they drive his trucks. He let me enter through the kitchen. Once inside, I had run of the place. It took me almost an hour to find them. I watched from the distance as she touched him and kissed him. The jealousy welled up within me. As I made a beeline towards them, I was recognized and intercepted by Jim and John Sanderson. These brothers were 2 of the 14 cheaters that worked there. I guess that bratty boy had them watching each other's back. They marched me out of the banquet room and down the hall to the restrooms. Jim walked in first, and John walked in behind me. I withdrew an 18-inch stainless towel rod from within my waistband. I spun around and hit John across his right temple, then I swung downward into his left knee. He started dropping down to his knees as I kicked him in the balls. That's for John Johnson. I struck Jim in the back of his head before he could turn around. He went straight down. That's for effing Susie Kellogg. Removing a bundle of zip ties from my inside jacket pocket, I zip-tied their hands behind them and pulled each one into a toilet stall and sat them on the seats. There was an apex predator working the party rooms. Within an hour, I had 3 different cheating men zip-tied in different stairways. And I had one zip-tied in a janitor's closet on the 3rd floor. I waited for Bradley to go to the bar for another drink. I walked up behind him, and whispered in his ear, "You might want to look for your friends. They got what was coming to them. Don't worry, yours is coming sooner than you think." I disappeared into the crowd. Having a business like mine, you meet a lot of folks that aren't upper crust. Street-level people with checkered pasts. Businesses that fall under the radar. One of these questionable businessmen, a pimp that likes how I work on his car, is going to do me a favor tonight. My pimp buddy and myself stood outside in the darkness behind Brad Silver's Jaguar, and waited for the loving couple. They were so engrossed with each other that they didn't notice me walk up in front of them, and my buddy behind them. As they broke their kiss, I spoke. What a loving moment. My wife screamed my name, before trying to swirl a flurry of lies about how it isn't what it looked like. She loves only me and the kids. He must have gotten her drunk. Bullshit. Bullshit. Oh, my soon-to-be ex-wife, I have been watching you, him, and all of your work friends for months. I know that bratty boy knows that some of his friends have been missing all evening. I told him that he was going to get what's coming to him tonight. Bradley drew up like he was going to fight me. I laughed out loud as my buddy tasered each of them. I didn't help him and his men load them into the van where the 6 other work wives awaited them. I didn't want my DNA on her and him. It was easy to pick off each cheating wife. Drinking a lot means lots of bathroom breaks. We had tasered each of the other cheating women as they went to the restroom, and brought them outside to the van. My buddy procured a cocktail of drugs and injected each of them so they would be compliant with what I had planned for the rest of the evening. Since these women liked to screw so much, I might as well make a little cash off them. My wife, Bradley, and the 6 other women were taken to rundown area of the city where my buddy hosted rooms for partying. If you know what I mean. His girls redressed each woman in trashy outfits, and locked them in their rooms. My wife's friend Bradley was locked in a cock cage, and dressed in leather chaps with his ass out. He was handcuffed on his belly across the bed. Ash up. I went into the room of each cheating wife with my buddy. I was recognized immediately. I informed them that since they liked to cheat, they were now working for me, and my buddy would make them comply. Most of the women tried to not service his customers tonight, and learned to comply after several hard slaps across their faces by a strong 300-pound man. The other two went right to work, like it was their fantasy or something. I was concerned because the women had met me before. We unlocked my wife's room, and I walked across the room and drug her into the room where Bradley was tied face down. I wanted her to see that I was in charge of this situation. No rescue was coming from her lover. I looked her in the eyes. I think after tonight, you and Braddy boy may both love the back door. Fear showed in her eyes. Once again, she tried to plead her case. My buddy grabbed her arm and shoved her into her room. I stood in the door. Since you like to run around on me so much, I decided that you can F around and I'll make some money off of it. She charged at me to claw my face, but my buddy slapped her face so hard she crashed into the floor. Do you mind, Dub? I love a fighter. No, enjoy yourself. She doesn't matter to me anymore. I smiled. Remember lots of pictures and video for all the husbands' divorce petitions. Buddy nodded and unbuckled his pants. I understand that all the wives, but mine, had been made missing persons by their husbands and families. Bennett looked questionable in the press. Over a half-dozen missing employees from their company event. It did not look good in the media. The media had speculated this group stolen funds from Bennett and disappeared. Clients were not happy with this possible scenario. It seemed that all of them took willingly to their new occupations, even Brad, once they realized that they had no hope of escape. After the second week, Buddy came by the garage, and wanted to know if I was ready to end this. It was taking money out of his girls' pockets, and they were complaining. I told him that the commercial property that I was going to rent to him would be ready in a couple of days. So give them up in maybe 3 more days. He handed me an envelope 5 inches thick. When I counted it, it had close to 12 grand in cash. A ledger sheet showed who made what. Seems Bradley was really a good producer after all. A call to a dirty vice cop resulted in storming of the building where the police found 7 female prostitutes, and 1 lone male escort with their customers. They were all arrested and booked with prostitution. Bennett had no choice but to terminate these employees after it made the news. My wife and Bradley tried to make a deal with the assistant DA by stating that I had been behind their being forced into prostitution. With home video footage showing that I was home all evening that night with my children and my parents, the DA office dropped me as a person of interest. I showed the DA the evidence from my PI report showing my wife and Butthole Bradley being lovers prior to their arrest. The divorce drug out for almost a year until she claimed that she ran out of money. She couldn't find a job in finance after being arrested. None of them could. She threatened me with the IRS among other things. She tried to get half of my business but failed because it was still in my dad's name. I wasn't worried about her finances, she didn't know that I knew about her overseas accounts. She wasn't really broke, just trying to get pity from the courts. I pulled some strings and got her a manager job for a C-store chain where she could intermix with people that were beneath her, and get the maintenance reduced if I lost. She had to take the job, or the court would know of her ruse. The worst part of this, and I take responsibility for it. I didn't think enough about my children. They took ridicule at school over their mother being arrested for prostitution. But therapy has helped them, and I taught them about getting even. My oldest daughter has a vicious streak. That's my girl. Once the divorce was over, I had custody of the kids, and she gets $2,500 a month maintenance for 3 years, or until she marries again. I don't talk bad about her to the kids and I allow her more visitation than she deserves. I don't let her keep them overnight though. A known prostitute and all that. The prostitution videos are locked up in my safe deposit box where the kids can never stumble upon them. I will take one out from time to time for my spank bank. Maybe someday when the kids are off to college, I try to find another woman to love me, but then, I am the jealous type.